What's up, Alabama? On today's show, we have a news roundtable. Allison, what's up first?
We're going to talk about NIL, name, image, likeness, which you may or may not know much about.
And then we're going to talk about Steve Marshall going to bat for Alabamians, God bless him, on the genderless bathroom stuff from the Biden administration. And then what do we finish up with?
Anonymous teacher.
You guys, you don't want to miss that. Stick around.
We're literally debating that it's bad that people get to say what they think.
Can you imagine? I'm reading Psalm 144 and it says, He trains my hands for war.
We are on the brink of total destruction of America as we know it.
Let your rebel flag fly.
Welcome into this week's edition of Alabama Unfiltered, your favorite podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Beeson. Amy Beth Shaver is with me, so is Allison Sinclair. And don't forget that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars. This helps us out tremendously because it helps others find out about Alabama Unfiltered. Also, don't forget to sign up for the 1819 newsletter to have their top stories delivered straight to your inbox every weekday morning. Ladies, how are y'all?
We're good.
So good.
Why are you smiling?
fancy.
It was like
you
it was
read it on
almost
the
off the
teleprompter.
cuff. Well, maybe, possibly. Maybe I've
I
done
don't
so
know.
bad
It's
at
magical.
it over the last few weeks that they gave me something to
After
read.
last week, Adrian was like,
Give him something to read.
We need-
No doubt about it.
yeah, but this is so fancy. I thought
It
we'd
is
have
good.
something with signs.
Well, at least I
No.
didn't read the parts that were like, Joe Biden does, like turn page,
Yeah.
smile, stop
Class.
now, leave,
Stare someone down.
don't say another word,
Make a threat.
smell the ladies and the little girls. I mean, don't you think they have to give him instructions on everything?
Yes, they do. They do. His
This
little
way,
card,
this way.
it probably says, like with an arrow, leave.
Go
deeply.
this way.
Don't stare at that little lady.
Wasn't there a soap commercial like a long time ago?
Oh, I was thinking
Wasn't there
Mary
a s-
Catherine Gallagher. Remember?
Oh,
Don't they have to?
That reminds me.
That's
Yeah.
gross.
And
Did
then she sticks her fingers in and
I'm
licks them.
Mary Catherine
Gross.
Gallagher.
That is disgusting.
Okay.
That is nasty.
Anyway.
But wasn't there a
Should
soap
we-
commercial where they were like
I think it's
fresh-
Irish Spring.
or something?
Yes, it was Irish Spring.
And then
Before
you-
Joe Biden was president, now he's ruined that commercial.
Changes it completely. I've got a bone to pick with y'all. This is before the program.
Oh,
All right.
shoot.
And y'all were talking about going to eat somewhere or whatever. And y'all literally, no one in Alabama has ever said the sentence that y'all said. And y'all said it almost simultaneously. Oh, they have a really good cauliflower cauliflower crust pizza. And no one in an Alabama, self-respecting Alabamian has ever uttered that sentence.
I think they have.
Why would you do a cauliflower crust pizza when you have regular pizza?
Well,
Regular
because
crust.
maybe you plan to have cake and ice cream and you've had mozzarella sticks
So-
before.
so-
you're trying to cut the carbs that you're going to have or sugar, which are also carbs. And so
Right.
you're just planning ahead.
So this is
It's a
the
delicious
Big Mac
thing.
fried Diet Coke argument.
Yes, and it's very effective.
It's a very good
Yeah,
argument.
but for me, it's
But-
just, I just like it.
It does
better
taste
than
good.
real crust.
No,
No.
not better.
Well,
It's
then
just
why are you
different.
doing
It's
it?
like saying, why do you
What's
eat
it?
chicken when you can eat steak?
Because
well,
by the
they're
time
different.
you get the cheese and the pepperoni and all that stuff, what's the difference in cauliflower crust and a regular crust?
About 50 carbs.
50 carbs, 100 calories, 200
I was going to
calories.
talk about the consistency. There's something about the consistency.
But
It's
you
like a
just
thin
told me
crust.
you don't like
it's
it
kinda
better.
chewy. No, it's different. You're asking me like, do I
Oh, so you like 'em
fries dipped
even.
in ranch or do I like fries dipped in ketchup better?
Which one do you
Well,
like better?
Neither. They're both really
They're
good.
both
it just
exactly
depends
the
on the, day.
same. You have no ability to say this one's even a little better than that one.
I mean, look.
Probably Jim and Nick's ranch. I would choose the Jim and Nick's
that's
ranch.
good ranch. That's really good
That
ranch.
is good stuff.
I don't know. Maybe George Soros
Just-
and Klaus Schwab have taken over my brain, and I'm about
Cauliflower. Well, I mean,
to
you
eat
know.
crickets and bugs too.
Did you say they were doing that? They're like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
already integrating that into the school lunch program, and I think it's Australia.
Like cicada tacos. Wasn't
Mm.
it the cicadas that were blooming? Wait, what did they do?
Yes.
Bloom,
they go.
bloom,
yeah.
hatch,
Whatever they are.
something, spawn.
Yeah,
I
I,
mean,
remember seeing that years
What
ago.
are the cicadas? Are they the ones in
Yeah.
the trees?
Yeah.
Well, how do they find enough of those?
Well, there was like a swarm.
Are there like millions of people?
Well, they only, I mean,
Climbing
whatever
around?
those bugs are, they only come out like every 7 years, right? What are those
Are
bugs?
those Well, they're going to
Sounds like
starve
a
to death
plague.
the other 6 years if
Anyway,
we're waiting on the 7 years.
I
That's
think
when you
it's
eat
cicadas.
cauliflower crust
But-
pizza.
I'm with that. I'm
I
for
saw
that. If you
the
give me
image.
cauliflower crust,
Or
cicada
cicadas.
crust, I'm going with the cauliflower.
It's delicious. You need to try
That
it.
is-
We're going.
No,
Your
why
wife would
I
be
do
very
that?
impressed if you tried that.
This is the cauliflower crust pizza at Top Golf.
Oh, is that
And
the one?
also
where,
their burgers
it's
are
like
very
called the
good.
Farm something.
I saw a thing today that had someone who just posted a "Have you ever eaten one of these?" Which is I thought was weird because it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Yeah.
like a homemade one, not the one you buy in the package.
Right.
And people were on their case because, hey, that's not right because there's peanut butter allergies and gluten allergies, and you shouldn't
Oh,
be promoting the
come on.
PBJ sandwich. That's how far we've gotten.
That's what we grew up on.
I love
Like I would
know.
have starved
jelly.
to death in the
Okay,
80s.
creamy or crunchy?
On a sandwich,
Yeah.
you got to go with creamy on the sandwich.
Depends on the day.
You gotta go creamy.
You
on the
Kind of
sandwich.
like the ranch or the ketchup.
Well, there's a reason. There's a mechanical reason because when you're trying to mix it, do you mix it up yourself? Do you spread jelly on one and peanut butter on the other, or do you put them both in the bowl and mix them up?
Oh.
Oh, that's what you do. You mix them up, and it's harder to mix up the crunchy, and you use fork.
Oh, I've never even considered that.
That's
Really?
way too much time.
I
Oh,
just
it's
like
way
slap
better.
the peanut butter
Oh
on.
no, you gotta
add
try
the
it
jelly,
mixed up. You gotta try it mixed up.
Mainly creamy, but I have crunchy as well.
Well, considering
Smucker's.
that y'all's
That's
palates
so
are
weird.
so like
Gardendale's weird.
$5
So,
from
do
the
you-
cauliflower
Okay.
pizza crowd.
Do you not
Oh,
just
I
buy,
can't even imagine
Hey,
mixing
it's
up the
really
So
jelly.
do you buy the
What?
goober stuff that's the peanut butter and the jelly?
No, that would be wrong. That's un-American too. No, you have to have separate jars, but you mix it together.
Sorry,
Sure.
said goober.
Okay.
She did.
Look, it felt weird, but I said it.
That's
Okay?
what it's called.
Because it's what it's called.
Ugh.
And
Oh, really?
sometimes, yeah, that's what it's
The
called.
pre
We
squeezed in
spent
there
a
with the
lot
stripes
of time
in it.
in the store shopping for our families.
true.
Ask your wife; she'll know instinctively what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I'm sure she does. She sends me to the grocery store. I have no idea where anything is. It drives me crazy. So I just have to
Well,
find
They
a
have
lady.
frozen cauliflower.
Is it
crust
sexist
pizza.
to always ask
They
the
do.
ladies
And
where
Do you buy the green brand, the green and white brand? I don't know what that brand is.
just the
Well-
packaging is green and white?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's very good pizza. I'm really being serious. I love
we're
Cauliflower
it.
gonna bring you
crust.
some next week.
We are.
Just bring me like a real one.
Hey,
be
we've
better.
lost
Can we
all
eat
of
during
our
the show?
listeners.
I don't know
Listen,
because they might want to know these things. Last question of no substance. Is it sexist for me to always ask a woman in the grocery store where things are?
No, it's just telling you.
It's like
that,
our time to shine.
yeah, we're superior at the store.
It's on aisle 11, halfway down, right on the second shelf. And don't ignore that other stuff because it's not the good kind.
But if you come-
this is the white and green wrapper.
It really is. All our time in the grocery store, we
Mm-hmm.
put it to good use.
hours in the store, along with hours in the car.
That's true.
Yeah,
No doubt
I'm not
about that.
offended.
Okay, good. I was just
No.
making
And
sure,
I'm not
'cause I don't
offended.
wanna
Like, if
offend
you hold
anybody.
the door open for me, too. I'm not
You're
offended
not
by that
You're
either.
not like,
No.
I can hold it for myself.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
anyone who wants to open the door.
Good.
Yeah,
Good. Well, that's because y'all are genuine Southern ladies.
We are.
How you made it there?
Doesn't mean
don't
I
know.
won't punch you in the
She
face
started
over
that. That's
some other
exactly
issues.
right.
I know.
Man,
Were
I'd be
you
like,
about to say
"Bring it
because
on."
I started in the north, or and she started in Tennessee? Is that what you're
Yeah,
going to
it's
say?
harder. The further you are out, the longer the transition is. But
Listen,
you've done great.
I was
would
an
even say you may have
infant.
surpassed my Tennessee friend in southernness.
You know what? I don't know if
Because
there's
she
any.
went from Tennessee nasty ball orange to Tennessee to Auburn blue and orange. She's
She
not
went to the Crimson.
not improving at all.
She did.
Hey, we're going to the game this weekend. Is anybody else going?
I'm going to West Virginia this weekend.
Y'all might.
Ew.
This might be. Oh, okay.
I'm going to see my kid.
Yes.
Oh, I
You going to the
forgot
football
about
game too?
No, we do not. No,
Why do you not go to the football game?
we tried that once.
What was wrong with it? Just because it
Well,
wasn't Alabama?
It's not Alabama,
Really?
but it's very fun to go. It's very fun to be on campus on game day weekends on any college campus. I think.
Yeah,
Let
I might
me
disagree.
specify. D1 that are actively
Right, where
interested
there's real
in football.
fans.
Yeah, you have to be very. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Because all is not the same. Once you've been to Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee,
Right.
the rest of it's
Yeah.
kind of boring.
Going
If I
to
don't
a
make
college
it
game that
back-
has fewer people there than at the Garndale High School game is
Yeah, it's just right.
not the
That's
same.
Because
Right.
we have our priorities straight.
Right.
I was
So what are you
gonna say,
gonna say
I'm kidding, but not kidding. Like, I'm a little nervous about this weekend.
Are you?
Like, it has the potential to be out of hand. You know, game day will be there, and then
Right.
and then like
Is it in Tuscaloosa or is it in Tennessee?
it's in Knoxville.
Oh,
So
my
I haven't been
goodness.
home. I haven't been to a game.
This is
there
y'all's
in
best
probably
chance
10
in a long
years.
time.
Yeah,
Truly.
Unless
it
Bryce
is.
Young
I'll
runs
be in
out there, then
orange
y'all hang it up.
again. Wait, what?
Nothing.
I do think it's going to be a very good game.
I
I do too.
Although
I think-
one of Tennessee's starters just got arrested for aggravated assault.
But that's
He
a
threw somebody
normal
down the
day at
stairs.
D1 SEC schools,
Well,
right?
this is a great segue into one of our conversations.
Yes.
I didn't
Okay.
even plan that, but yeah. So I'll send y'all some pictures. Hey, I'll do some video.
Okay.
We're starting a TikTok channel, which is going to be hysterical.
We are.
Wild.
Y'all are.
You
Oh
are.
no, you
Well,
are.
I am.
We
You
just
are.
haven't given
I'm
you
not
your assignment
dancing.
yet.
Wait a minute. Let's
not
just
dancing.
clip that tape, Adrian, right there where he
Oh.
said, I'm not dancing for when he does.
No,
And,
the first time I
there you
dance,
go.
you'll be like, okay, you're right. No dancing.
It's going to be videos of like you eating the crybaby warhead
Okay.
that you just
That's
did.
what we're doing?
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
doing
know.
fun
Love to.
things.
Okay. Yes,
You know
ma'am.
what?
I'll do
I'm
some
for
fun
it.
things.
I'm
All
all
right.
for promoting
But
the
yeah,
show.
Allison, you're right. That did just kind of
I
kick
know.
us off into. It's
know.
like she's a professional, and she
Doesn't
got
even
us
know it.
there. Dangerous
It's so easy.
To be that
So what
talented.
is the first topic
Well,
that you were segueing into?
AB, this is your
in your
Okay.
well, yeah.
NIL Name, image, likeness.
For college kids,
for college kids?
which I think is ruining college sports.
Do you really?
Okay,
Really
and
do.
you have one that plays college sports.
She has
And
deals.
I have one who's had a couple, small NIL kind of arrangements. Nothing like what, some college football players get, but I don't think it's good for the sport.
Has she taken them?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So like you don't
So she-
like
so
it,
she's
but
made-
you're
so
gonna
she's made a
you're
little
gonna
money of
take
it.
advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely. How dumb are you if somebody says, here's $5 and you say, oh no, I'm opposed to
that's
carrying
what we tell
cash.
our legislators not to take
Right.
from the AEA.
But that's bribery.
different-
That's
I have
bribery.
a different opinion.
Are you for it?
Yeah, I am.
Really?
I
Okay,
am.
so
But-
I do want to ask some questions on that then.
Okay.
So how do you decide? Okay, this is a great example. So Bryce Young, quarterback at the University of Alabama, at least $1 million deal, maybe this year, maybe more than $1 million a year deal. If he's a great athlete, won the Heisman Trophy, the whole 9 yards. If he goes to Vanderbilt instead of the University of Alabama, how much is he worth as the quarterback at Vanderbilt?
Zero.
Okay. So what is his value? What is he being paid for? What is he NILing?
I
For-
think that the NIL is doing, and you also have to talk about NIL, not name, image, likeness, not just in college. I think you also are seeing it happen in high school. LeBron James's son.
Right. But that's because
another
it's LeBron
kid-
James's
There's
son.
5 kids on Sports Illustrated of the trending kids who have gotten a lot of money, and it was a Nike deal.
Okay.
That's a whole nother issue. But what I do think is that it is another way to keep kids in college longer because they may be getting more money than they would have. The school and other people were capitalizing off of their number or whatever it was. And kids, in some cases, were not able to, let's say families come from completely, different backgrounds.
Okay. So you're saying they're broke.
I'm saying they're broke. I'm saying we know that there's payment going on. We haven't engaged in that because that's
Right.
not what we do.
Right.
However, I think in one way it could be beneficial because it keeps kids in school longer because it makes it competitive versus leaving it and going to the NBA, going to the NFL. Really, those are the two main that are leaving school early. And so they're not there as long. I think it extends their college life. I think it allows them to finish and get their degree and then go on. I think there's something good about that.
Okay. So a couple of questions would be, all right, so the kids who are the most likely to get an NIL deal, and let's mostly just talk football and basketball.
Okay.
That's where the real money is. The other things are nice, but they're very, very small dollars. The kids who are the most likely to get a big NIL deal are probably very, very likely to get the next level, NBA, NFL,
Correct.
whatever. So you end up with a team of 80-something kids. How many of the football players at a Division I school of that 80-something are actually getting almost anything from an NIL deal? 5?
I would
10
say
of the 85?
percentage-wise, are
Yeah.
you saying numbers?
Oh, either one. I'll take either
am
one.
saying
So maybe
probably
10% do?
10% do. I'm not saying that it is magical and wonderful,
Right.
but I feel like we are dealing with life as it is.
Okay.
And I do think one way it is 10% and it is for what I'm looking at in the basketball world, it is
Right.
very motivating for somebody to try to get some
Right.
that they have earned because
Okay.
they have to earn it.
Right.
That is the one part that I like about it.
Right.
They're not going to give it to kids who are not at the top of their game.
That's
Now-
right. Because you have to make a name for
You
yourself.
do have to
you
make
have to
a name
do all
for
that.
yourself.
So you're saying that maybe they can make some money while they play at college because they exceed at college, but if they don't go to the NFL, to the NBA, maybe they made some money while they were in college because they excelled and they were one of the better players in that state or whatever, and everybody liked them, so they get some deals. And so it gives them an opportunity to make some.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that part, other than I'm a little bit bothered by, as you and I both know, that this was all sold to everyone as these poor athletes. They don't make anything. They don't get anything. They're basically, going to practice all day, and then they're standing on the side of the street corner with, "Please help me, I'm poor and homeless." When you and I both know that's not the case.
Correct.
At major programs. So we were kind of sold on
Yes.
hey, they need to make something. Well, they were getting paid.
Right. They
They
were
were,
getting
they were
paid.
calling it stipends and this kind of
Yes.
stuff, but they were getting paid. And most Americans thought, they're not getting paid anything. They're just being used. They're just slaves.
They're getting money.
And then you've got the whole situation where, say it's like baseball. Baseball, you could go play in the minor leagues.
Right.
And if we had a minor league football program, or we had a minor league, they're kind of getting there in basketball, minor league basketball program. Some of these kids who are making big NIL deals because they're a quarterback at Georgia or they're a quarterback at Alabama, if they went and played in minor league football, probably wouldn't get almost anything.
Right.
So a lot of it really is, are you the quarterback at Alabama? Are you the linebacker at Georgia? Are you so-and-so? So I'm just conflicted with it. And then how you deal with, well, this cornerback gets it, but this one doesn't. Is it because this one's on TikTok all the time doing
I think
crazy
it's the-
things?
I
How do you
think it
become
is the
popular?
Same thing, and I could be completely wrong. Two things. One is who's going to help influence to sell whatever product they want to be sold.
Right,
And they're going to be doing the same thing in the future.
right,
So there's that. There's actually three things. Two, you're exactly right. They were always getting paid.
right.
Does this clean it up? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I'm saying
here's-
it makes it worse.
But here's a suggestion from Chris Shaver, because I picked his brain about the whole thing, is at the very least, and see what y'all think about this. The very least, his suggestion was you need to have a business class when they get to school
So they don't spend it
so
all.
that they don't spend it all, so that they know how to read a contract, so that they know how to have a budget, so that they know how to create their own kind of influencer account that they want to have, that they're in
Right.
control of.
Right.
And so that they can also be careful of the lecherous agents and the ones that really actually have their best interests at heart, that may have been on their diaper crew versus people, diaper crew meaning that have been there from the beginning with them and know them. Or do they want to go with a big agency that's well known? Or are there new people coming on that are like, hey, I'll help you and I'll help you and I'll help you. And then they end up at the end of their NBA career and maybe they've made a lot of money, but they have everybody on the bus
Right.
and they didn't get to save any of their money.
Right.
So he thinks it is very important, no matter what we do, to teach them how to wisely manage their money.
Oh, I agree
And I
with
think
that.
that is something that's really, that part, I'm like, I am
We should have been doing that already, though.
already.
I mean, for
What do you think?
a
Does that
lot of
sound
these.
crazy?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's from an outsider. I don't have a child that's playing any D1 college sports. My superficial immediate thought when all this started was like, this just ruins the game. Like
Right.
your payment should be a free ride to college and the experience and the exposure that you get. And that should be enough. I mean, I think when you start throwing money in front of kids that are barely 18, 19, 20
Well, you may
years
be
old.
throwing it in front of their dad. Hey, I want to go to Tennessee and play. And dad says, are you kidding me? Wichita
you
Southwest
saying just
Directional
'cause it's
School
Tennessee?
is going to give you more. No, I was trying to be good for Tennessee.
Okay.
So-and-so over here is going to give you more, son.
Shocker.
I need you to go over here.
Mm-hmm.
Dad may be in the background working the deal. He may be the agent. He
I
may
just
be
think
saying,
it
I want the
adds-
dollars now instead of I want you to go where you have the best chance of going to the NFL. I mean, there's so much sliminess that can be
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
And so now we're openly paying kids to come to our schools.
It reminds me of gambling in Alabama. Like we know it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening at Green Track. It's happening. There's bingo, whatever. But just because it's happening doesn't mean you legalize it and then make all your money and tax it. You know, just because it's happening doesn't mean you sanction it. And I think it's a slippery slope, and it opens the door for a lot more corruption and in a lot more, I don't know. It already feels like a business, and like what happened to like good old just like college sports.
I just want to go play there.
Just college, you know. But I also see the flip side, and I'm looking at especially Alabama and how much money they make off their players and that image and that and so some of it does seem wrong. Then the other thing I think about is like, well, what if you're the players, you're the 90% that don't have these deals? Don't you feel like a loser? And like, how does that do?
How many offensive linemen get that deal?
Yeah, I mean,
what does that do for morale on the team? You know,
now, I've heard stories though. There are some programs that are out there, and I think it may be more baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these programs are like, look, we're going to do our NIL deals as a team.
Right.
The team will support this. The team eats Joe's Cheeseburgers. The team uses so-and-so's car dealership. This is the official thing of the team. And they're taking it in as a team and using it for, you know, kids that don't have the full ride scholarship, paying for part of it. So it I know it sounds a little socialisty sounding.
No, I like
but
that
I really
idea.
think that there is a way to say, okay, if you really want to sponsor the teams, which I think they actually probably could have before, so didn't need the NIL. But if you want to do that, go do that. And then maybe we should get to where you are and say, if you want to go play college ball for quote unquote free and get everything paid and get a stipend every month, do it. If you don't like that deal, go ahead and go play in the minor leagues. Just go ahead and go pro. And then that really would kind of fix the whole thing. You have a choice. I'm good enough to go play minor league baseball, come up with minor league football, and separate it back out and kind of let it go back the way it was. But at the same time, if you're going to do it, I'm glad for the kids that get it, but it just seems like a way that if I'm a really big booster and I want that center to come play basketball for us, hey, I got an NIL deal for you. All you got to do is advertise for my business.
Well, I mean, like Adam Weitzman up in Syracuse, New York. Do y'all remember he was giving $1 million for one NIL player for football and basketball? I can't remember the whole thing, but he, and this was just a few weeks ago. I mean, $1 million, one person to advertise, and he's in the scrap metal industry. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
He's going to advertise for scrap metal.
Anyway, I mean, that's one person, one player.
Well, remember the Saban Jimbo Fisher thing?
Like the last week?
Well, the one back in the summer.
Had a fight.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and then Jimbo's like, and Saban's saying, well, this is how they got the #1 recruiting class. They've gotten all these kids to come with these NIL deals, and then Fisher says, well, we didn't do anything illegal. Well, I'm like, you're right, you didn't do anything illegal, but you didn't say you didn't NIL deal them all to get them here either, because that's not illegal.
Right. But I also think, though, that the strength of the program that the child is going to, that chooses to go to, also matters. And I think that the quality of the coaching staff matters. I know that even before this happened, players are, paid to, I'm going to commit here. And then somebody comes in and says, no, you need to come here.
Right.
And you're right. And sometimes it really is the family that are saying, no, we really don't want you to go there. We really want you to go here. The other part of this equation is the NCAA was really before Auburn made their Final Four run. And there are some very strict regulations in place, even dealing with how much food the kids could get from their university.
Right.
You remember that? And so I think the other part of this equation was this is a reaction formation to what some of the rules and regulations that they have in place are insane and they're not realistic. And so it's kind of like education. Ooh, it's like we're segued there.
Right.
But it's kind of like nobody's talking to each other.
Right.
And they've got to figure out what's going to be best. But I do think on the capitalistic side that it does motivate people to do their best. When Will is looking at his teammates, they all love each other anyway. He is excited for his friends who are years ahead of him, who have great deals.
Right. Right.
The benefit to us is we're excited because some of them are going to stay around to polish their skills and up their game so that they are ready for the next level.
So they're finding, at least in basketball, that because they have an NIL deal, they're going to stay longer.
Yes.
Will they do that if they're actually drafted, though?
So when you're drafted, I don't know anything
what I'm
about that
saying?
part because we're brand new to the whole thing.
Because once they know they can go pro, do they really say, no, I'm not going to go pro yet? That would be interesting.
I think that what happens, I know for basketball players, is they wait to see if they're on the draft board. They wait to see because
They wanna
scouts
see
are
where
at
they're
every
gonna go.
practice.
Right.
They're watching their every move. They don't do anything without being watched.
Right.
And so that affects them. Now, I'm not saying that some of these boys who stuck around didn't do it because we'd like to win a natty,
Right.
After
or
2017.
I want my draft place to go up next year.
And so I think what you have to have involved is you have to have honest brokers, and that depends on your school.
Right.
You have to understand that paying players has been going on forever. So you're right. It is a little bit like gambling. We know it's happening.
Right.
But we also know that the kids who they were using number 28 and they were buying all number 28 jerseys, but this kid didn't get a thing and he can't afford a plane ticket home.
Right.
Because NCAA said that we can't send him home.
Right.
We've got a problem. Right. So there's a disconnect there.
They could have saved a little bit of their stipend.
They could have. They could have saved their stipend.
Because I do know some people that do that. And
I
know people who spend it all their money.
All their money.
Right.
And so then comes in, hey, let's just talk about business. Let's talk about how you spend your money. Let's go back to like teaching them how to do it so that we know whatever happens here. And I don't disagree that it can't be slimy and that people aren't paid to come in to go play at Alabama. But I also think that it does matter the kind of people that they're going to play for.
I agree.
I think that matters. But I'm
of course,
also
in basketball,
concerned,
North Carolina is one of those. It's like Alabama in football.
Yes.
So those deals come along. Right down the street, there's some basketball players at North Carolina State.
Yes.
They're not getting that one.
No, they're not.
Because the program. That matters.
That's right.
And one of the things you said was about how much money the programs make. Those programs pay for all the other programs. Football pays for, let's be honest, pays for baseball too. There's a bunch of guys sports that it pays for, but it pays for the girls sports, the guys sports, there's just very few things that aren't paid for by football. So like in Alabama, if you see $50 or $60 million, it's paying for everything. And it's paying for to build everybody else's venues and everybody else's fields and all that. So,
and
it's complicated.
For you, you were saying buying all the number 28 stuff and he can't get home. And I'm like, well, at the same time, the universities and these teams, if you want to view it as a business, it's like they're taking on the risk of bringing on that player.
Right.
So why should they not be able to reap the benefits of taking on that risk? It happens in business all the time. Right. Your CEO in your business makes a lot of money off of you that you don't actually see.
Well, it seems like when you dig in, the NCAA may cause more problems than they solve because they want it to be so fair, that they disregard the resources that are at the big universities, and they say, well, that's not fair. It'll give you an unfair advantage because this little college can't afford to send their kids home, but North Carolina can, Alabama can. Well, I don't really understand why the big schools don't say, okay, we're going to have a whole different set of guidelines here.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to do some of these things that are normal, that are common. We'll send our kids home every so often. That seems like it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But they do have pretty big stipends at some of these schools.
Well, they do.
Surprisingly
and
big.
If you go to school a certain distance from home, it used to be that you get a stipend to go home. You can. But if you're in that window and there are players that can't go home, I think the NCAA, bless them, there just needs to be ongoing conversation about how this,
flexibility.
because I'm also concerned, last thing I'll say about this, and I'd love to jump into education, is when a politician though is interested in this and they're concerned, really that means they're going to tax it.
Right.
So or is this just a business expense and you're going to have to pay taxes because everybody else has to pay taxes?
I think they're probably going to pay taxes. It's income.
And we believe in paying our taxes.
And I don't even know what the stipends are.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to say what the stipends are.
I don't know.
I would tell all our viewers and listeners that they will be shocked at what the stipends are.
Yes.
Because some of the stipends at some of the schools are more than some people working jobs probably make. And then they're going to be like,
yes.
they're going to be like, "Oh my
we
gosh,
find
I
that
thought
out?
y'all were broke."
Or is that illegal?
People will be shocked. And I wish I could remember
nominate
exactly
you
what
to find out that information.
what some of it is.
Do this right there.
I don't even know if it'll show up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
that's
it's one of the
that's a good
things that,
question. But it's
I
interesting.
promise it's more than people think.
It is.
It's a nice allowance.
It's something to watch how all this, and I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
what just happened with Bruce Pearl. He just said he wasn't going to, and I'm going to say this, and both of y'all are staring at me with blank stares.
Yeah, I have not heard
Okay,
it.
we might. No, he said he wasn't going to put money somewhere. I promise I'm not making it up. Although I've had crazy dreams lately, so maybe. But anyway, he said he wasn't going to put money somewhere that he was going to spend his time investing in NIL deals for the players. And I can't remember what it was, but I remember going, see this shift.
So now
Anyway, I'll
it
find
really is becoming professional sports.
Yeah.
It's how much you can pay, which will kind of changes the whole thing because there's so many little kids who, especially in North Carolina, who want to play basketball in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So many little kids that would give anything to be a football player at Alabama or even Tennessee or Auburn. And now we're just going to change it to what NIL deal can you get me?
It's just
I really wish they'd have spent all their time and energy coming up with minor leagues for basketball and football and giving kids a pathway where they didn't have to go to college
Kind of an
if they wanted to.
intermediate step.
Yes.
Well,
but
like
instead
the
of doing
G
that,
League.
they're just going to blow up
Yeah.
college sports, which they're against anyway. The folks who
It's a whole thing.
push it all aren't even sports people.
Right.
And a lot of people are making money off this because they're the agents.
right.
Oh no, that's a great deal. Let's do this. And how do you get in trouble for talking to an agent about going pro, but you have an agent for your NIL deal? How is that still a violation?
Don't even know. I don't even understand it.
I can't even figure it out.
I literally just, I was like, Chris, we're going to talk about this. Right. But it is all still so new. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, I may have a completely different opinion. But looking at it purely from the innocent standpoint of just starting out.
Right.
I am not yet jaded. I think in some ways it could benefit. Right. But I can see that it is, like Allison said, a very slippery slope. Mm-hmm. And where there's a lot of money, there's also a lot of trouble.
Right.
I found the Bruce Pearl thing.
Ooh,
yes.
Did
you?
Okay. So he has put on hold building the new practice facility because he says the project is being pushed to the back burner for the time being because Auburn needs to prioritize another aspect of its athletics program first, the NIL.
So they're going to
we've got to take care of the NIL space first in all sports. First, that's got to be one of our commitments and our objectives. We've got some other things to take care of before we take care of the practice facility. It's already happening.
So we're not going to build a practice facility because we've got to focus on how to get more money in for the NIL.
The top 3 players need millions. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
I mean,
and I love Bruce Pearl.
I don't see how that helps. Well, he's got to. Otherwise, you can't compete.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think they're going to have to fix this in some way. And I don't know how they do. And it's like the NCAA just dropped this on everybody without thinking about what was going to happen. And I think it's just going to cause more and more problems. And I know even like in a basketball close-knit family, the kid who plays really well and another kid plays really well and they're real close, but this kid does all the interviews or this kid does this, all of a sudden his stock is worth a lot more because everybody sees him and hears him and they really like him. And then this kid's like, what the heck? Why am I not getting to do that? So I see eventually you start getting a little bit of rub, a little bit of friction. What? What?
Should I tell Scott when somebody the other day started talking about the Scott Beeson show?
What?
Yeah.
So the other day we were somewhere and they were talking to a guy. It was Ty Coffee, and they were like, Ty, we heard you on the Scott Beeson show, and that was such a great show. We're so glad you stop.
What?
We're so glad.
He's very proud
Thank
right
you
now.
for all you're doing or whatever. And I was like, so I'm just nodding and Ty's nodding, and the conversation ends, and I was like, did you go on Scott's radio show? Because I don't remember. He went on Leland's show, and he was like, no. And then the guy comes back and he was like, oh, Allison, Oh, Allison. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ty, because you were on the show. Allison, you were on Scott Beeson show. Anyway, it was the Scott Beeson show.
Yeah.
That's how I was thankful because, well, people recognize you. I'm glad somebody was watching. But that's how these kids feel. You're like, wait, I was there too.
Right, I'm there too.
Yeah.
But no, I was like,
It is. And therein lies the rub. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing. And so then you have to think, and this is like a whole axiom for life, I think, is are you going to be bitter about that, or are you going to let that motivate you to do better?
Right. Maybe.
This is what
Watch
I
out.
always come
It's gonna
down
be the
to.
Allison
It's going to be the
Sinclair
Allison
show.
show.
Next week.
Yeah, I'm telling
Yeah.
you, when they say, hey, Scott, I saw you on Allison's show.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
You'll
gonna be
know
rough.
you are a
I will
total
know
loser.
I'm done.
You just need to check out.
So which, speaking of checking out, because where do they need to know what we're doing with our kids when we check them out of school anyway? This is what I want to know. Which education part do we want to talk about?
So we have two options. We can talk about Biden wanting boys in the girls' bathrooms, or we can talk about the anonymous teacher letter. We can go there next. Which one?
Can we do both?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can do both.
Can we just quickly say that Biden wanting boys in the girls' bathrooms, the state of Alabama should just say no? Can
Well,
we just do
That's
that?
so simple, Scott. What do you mean that
Right.
they would just say no?
This is why it's the Scott Beeson show.
Right. Can't we
It's
just say
just
that?
so obvious and so simple. Well, I want that. It really is an important discussion because it all goes back to what they're trying to do with Title IX, which ties into sports
Right.
and everything else. But so, and I don't know if you've kept like Steve Marshall went on Fox News and had this whole op-ed, and do you know?
Mhm. I know a little bit about
Okay.
it. Mhm.
Anyway, so I'm going to kind of
So
set
we're
that
trying
up.
to say no.
We're trying to say no, but Biden
what
is
kills
like
me
waging
is-
war on us.
Right. He'll cut your
Thanks,
he'll
Joe
cut your
Biden.
lunch money, right?
Yes.
He cares so
Yes.
much about boys being forced into the girls' bathroom that he will starve poor children.
It's really this
Yes.
whole Title IX where,
Yes.
so
Which
back-
Title IX was girls' sports, female sports,
Yes.
women's sports. I
Yes.
don't know. What's the preferred thing? Depends on your age.
We don't care.
You
If
just
you're an
can't
older
discriminate.
lady,
We don't
it's
get
girls.
offended.
Right.
So on May 5th, of all things, the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Food and Nutrition Services announced that it will interpret. Okay, all of a sudden on May 5th, we're going to interpret Title IX differently.
Yeah.
That it will interpret the prohibition of discrimination based on sex found in Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 to include discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So they put out this press release that now all of a sudden, not only can you not discriminate on race, sex, gender, religion, disability, now we're going to do gender. I guess it includes like if you're furry, you can't. If you're trans, you know, if you're non-binary. So we're just going to start interpreting it to be that.
And they say interpret, which means
in
we're
this
going
press
to
release,
start
yes.
making
They
this
say
up in a
interpret.
different way than it's always been.
They back it up by saying this action is in line with President Biden's executive order on preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. This executive order came out January 20th, 2021. Okay, so Biden puts it out on January 20th.
Mm-hmm.
The USDA comes out on May 5th. This is how Biden's executive order begins. Every person should be treated with respect and dignity, and should be able to live without fear, no matter who they are or whom they love. Okay, we can all agree
great.
with that.
I'm for that. I'm fine
down
with
with
that.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to the restroom, the locker room, or school sports. All persons should receive equal treatment under the law, no matter their gender identity or sexual orientation.
Right.
Okay, if y'all go, I mean, think about that. Children should not be worrying about whether they will be denied access to restrooms.
Which they're
Boys
not.
can go to the girls.
But what I'm saying is today, no one's denied access to the bathroom.
But if you feel like a girl,
You just can't go
and
to
you're
the
a
bathroom
boy,
you want to go to.
right? Okay,
Right?
Correct.
but they're saying you should be able to go with the one you feel like.
Correct.
Well, should not be denied access to locker rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that means boys should be able to dress out, and the girls. I mean, this is what the Biden administration is
Right.
after. And school sports, which means boys can try out for the cheer team,
For the girl
and they
volleyball
can-
team.
The girls.
No,
volleyball
I'm against
team.
the cheer team thing for sure, 100%.
Well, I'm not against male cheerleaders.
No.
But males who know they're males.
What?
Boys who know they're boys can be
You want
cheerleaders.
boys. You want male boys
Well, I
to
mean,
be
I guess
boy
it depends
cheerleaders.
on if they want to wear a skirt or a.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
good grief.
Okay, so that's
She's
a
like,
different
"It gets
My
down to me,
podcast.
get
stomach
this up."
hurts.
Right.
So this is what happens. So the USDA puts this out. This is where it comes to Alabama. The USDA press release continues. As a result, state and local agencies, program operators, and sponsors that receive funds from FNS, the Food and Nutrition Services, the reduced and free lunch funds, must investigate allegations of discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation. Those organizations must also update their non-discrimination policy and signage to include prohibitions against discrimination based on gender identity and
So
sexual
that means
orientation.
you're going to have signs in your schools
Yes.
that also say, this is right.
So the USDA is saying that they will not send funds, federal funds, to public entities, schools, that do not accept their policies, which means this changes everything. Everything.
And there are a tremendous number of educrats who are shaking in their boots because they're afraid that the state will say, we're not doing that.
So,
You think?
They shouldn't be that afraid because I figure we'll fold.
Right. Yeah.
But and they'll turn it back around. It won't be President Biden saying we're going to starve kids if you don't do this. It will be conservatives want to starve kids because we're so closed-minded. That's what it is.
I mean, and it's just disgusting. The Biden administration is holding these kids that are the most vulnerable hostage to implement these ideologies. So in response, 22 states sue the Biden administration for basically overstepping on states' rights. And it's led by Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, and says the National School Lunch Program feeds nearly 30 million students every day.
Right.
30 million students. Now,
Which is
that doesn't say how
mind-blowing
many
already.
are red and how many are blue state kids, but over 100,000 public, nonprofit, private schools and daycares receive these funds. So Steve Marshall goes just full on nuclear and is like, we are not doing that. Our state's rights are not for sale. And he took out an op-ed in Fox News. And he said, by issuing a USDA memorandum and accompanying administrative rule, the administration has waged a campaign to impose the left's extremist gender identity agenda on school children with the implied threat that if states resist, their programs in public schools will get less money from the federal government. And then he goes in to talk about the bigger picture to me. And it says, it's important to understand how compliance with the left's radical gender identity agenda would destroy the educational experiences of students, girls in particular. The Biden administration's own fact sheet about guidance indicates that preventing a boy from using the girls' restroom would be discrimination if the boy identifies as a girl. Similarly, the fact sheet suggests that preventing a boy from trying out for the girls' cheerleading squad would be discrimination. This is what the left wants to see in Alabama's schools. He ends by saying the duty of state's leaders is not to dollars. We are meant to serve the interests of the people in our state. So
That's a brilliant statement. And he's right all the way down.
now, if all of our politicians would just stick to that, that would be awesome. But I mean, kudos to Steve Marshall for just
Right.
not
Amen.
backing down. Because this is why people are leaving public schools in droves. I don't care. And we'll get to anonymous teacher. We'll explain that. I don't care if you have the most godly, well-meaning, loving teachers ever in your school. You can't fight this.
Right. And
You
they have
can't
to
fight
they have to
this.
abide by the rules that are passed down.
Yes.
And that's a lot of the limitations. That's why all our schools have winter break. Because we used to have Christmas break.
Right.
And now it's winter break because you couldn't call it Christmas
Yeah.
break. So, but everybody went along with that. And you know, oh, well, that's just a little thing, Scott. Why are you? Well, it leads to this kind of stuff.
Well,
And
I'm-
years ago when we said, don't take federal money for this, don't take federal money for that, don't do it. And they're like, well, what's wrong with you? Why not take federal money? There's nothing wrong with that. Well, eventually it comes to this kind of thing. You do this or we'll starve your kids.
Now, is this not the time then for all of these states, the 22 states that have said, stop right there at the state line, to begin to cut off the federal government from their influence in the public school?
Yes.
Can we do that?
If
Oh,
they
they-
don't take
Say,
their
we
funding,
don't need your money.
They
to
absolutely
feed these
can if they
children.
want
We have a
to.
surplus in our
they
state.
don't have the gumballs to do it.
I agree.
That's
with
the
you.
problem.
That's
Well, then the other question is, the state would have to come back in and say, okay, we need to really figure out who needs free lunch and who doesn't.
Correct.
Because the federal program is pretty blanket wide, and it's because I never figured out how people don't starve in the summer.
Well, like
some
our
schools
school
around here
does.
feeds people.
Yeah.
Well, I know but
Yeah.
that's a pretty new program too.
That happened during
Where
COVID.
we started doing summer stuff and sending stuff home.
Maybe
and
like food banks step up.
maybe.
Well, here's what, and I have story time real quickly. I haven't told
Okay.
y'all this because I want your true reactions.
Is this the
This just
is this the
happened.
teacher?
No,
Okay.
No.
but this is the crap that is happening, and this just happened. So at my high school, my kids' high school.
One quick thing. There's where's the volleyball team in Vermont or New Hampshire, where the
Vermont.
state put that stuff in place, and so they've got a boy on the girls' volleyball team, and he's changing in the locker room, and the girls are like, "No, I'm not changing in front of him."
read that.
And the school system or the state told the girls, "Well, you can find a new place to change."
Yeah.
That's how far it has gone. That's exactly what will happen here.
Yeah.
You'll get the one guy who says, "I'm a girl volleyball player. I'm a girl basketball player." And then when the girls say, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable with this," they're going to tell the girls, "Get a life. You get out." He's the special one.
Yeah.
It's
How did that
is what
happen?
that is.
Yeah.
And what I can't figure out is where the dads are. Are
High
there
five.
any dads?
Where are the dads?
Where are the dads?
Said that before. Where are
So-
you dads? All right, sorry. What
I mean, I
happened?
would like
Well-
to see a superintendent go, "I ain't doing that because Scott it's going to be ugly. I'm going to have
So
to charge
here-
him with assault."
This is such a real life example, and I want to be really careful because the family.
Allison,
I want to
when have
protect.
you ever been you're protecting
I'm
somebody. I was
protecting
wondering
the
when you've
family.
ever been
No.
careful on what you're saying.
No. If it
Okay.
comes to me, I don't really care.
Right.
But I want to protect the family. But this just highlights the issue of what we're dealing with.
Okay.
So at my kids' high school, homecoming week was like 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I'm about to say?
I have no idea because
Okay.
I was out of town, so I missed
Okay.
all of HOCO week.
So went to the pep rally that's during school, that's before
Mm-hmm.
the homecoming game, and they announced homecoming king
Okay.
before, like not on the field. So they announced
King's
it.
at the pep rally
Yeah.
and Queen
I didn't know
is
if
at
everybody
the
did.
right.
So they go through, and I'm going to change the name too. But anyway, okay. So they're like announcing. They have a student reading the names. Okay, and so they're like, Scott, so and so.
Am I with a grade or something?
Brian,
Okay.
so and so,
Mhm.
and Caleb, so and so, and then they say Susie, so and so, and I'm like,
This is the male homecoming court.
yeah, this is for King, and I'm like
Okay.
looking around because I'm trying, like I'm looking
Right.
to see, and there aren't many parents there.
Right. Well, there's a boy named Sue. Wasn't
But-
there a
Yeah,
Johnny
there was a
Cash
boy
song?
named Sue. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that
See?
song from the 50s, 60s.
Oh,
Anyway.
well, I just made Susie up. It's
Oh,
a different
okay.
name. But anyway, but I'm like, there aren't many parents there, but I'm looking around and like the kids are going wild when they say Susie. The kids are like, yeah. And so I'm like, wait, did I hear Susie? I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Well, sure enough, Susie runs down, but he's a he. And so I'm like, okay. And I know Susie. He hasn't always been a Susie. Okay. So just a few years ago, Susie was Jeff.
Okay.
Okay. But now he's going by Susie. Anyway, so then they announce Susie wins homecoming king.
Okay.
Okay. And so Susie accepts his crown and does this thing and whatever, runs off. And I'm like, okay, how's this going to happen at the game tonight? Like, I wonder if they'll say Susie on the loudspeaker at the game or like,
Right.
because his given name is not
So
Susie.
I'm a little confused. So you got to
Okay.
help me out. So is the guy the homecoming king is now a girl?
Yeah. Or he goes by a girl name. I don't know. He
Okay.
had on shorts and a t-shirt.
Okay.
And so he wasn't like in a dress or anything.
Okay.
But
okay.
he has a girl name. He identifies as Susie now.
So he identifies as a girl.
Well, I mean, he changed his. I mean,
Well,
unless,
I'm just trying to make sure.
Well,
I'm trying,
maybe not. I don't
maybe he
know.
just has a girl name now.
Maybe
and they
he
thought
just
it
wants
was,
a girl name.
Okay.
Okay. So we go to the game that night,
Mhm.
and sure enough, they announce him on the loudspeaker, and it was muffly. You couldn't really hear
Uh-huh.
as Susie.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
And so again, I'm looking around to see if anybody acknowledges that like Susie wasn't Susie last year.
Right.
Like
Right.
we knew him as Jeff. Well, then I'm friends with his mom and his sister. And anyway, like, I mean, this is why I want to be sensitive, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed. And the mom posts on Facebook, I'm so proud of my son, Jeff, for winning Homecoming King.
Okay.
Okay, so now you've got a huge issue because the school and the school district are calling him Susie. Are recognizing him as Susie. But his own mother is calling him Jeff.
I got you.
And I'm like asking my kids about it. I'm like, so what? Because we've known him. I'm like, well, what's the deal with Susie? And they're like, it's just not a big deal. It's like, whatever, you know, it's just what he goes by now. And I'm thinking, whoa. Right. This is the issue. Right. Because.
So you're not talking about his name being Jeff Bubba Beeson and he wants to go by Bubba because that's his nickname that everybody called him. This is I'm changing my name to a girl's name.
Yeah.
And you're not 100% sure how far that goes.
I don't know how far it goes, but all I know is that
the school's validating it.
Right.
And adopting the usage and everything.
So there are 1,400 students in that gym when they announced that.
Mm-hmm.
And all the administrators, all the adults in that room, and they're having a student read out these names are just playing into it. And as my daughter was so kind of flippant about it, I'm like, that's not good because you're getting that from the adults that you're around that are saying it's okay. Now, if Jeff wants to be Susie, I really am not the Holy Spirit in Jeff's life. I can't, but where's the boundary? Like, what if I want to be called Empress Allison or, I
told you she said that to me.
As she does.
Please call me princess. What if I want to, I don't know, but it made me pause and you should ask because I'm like, this is why this generation is they don't even pick up on it anymore. Mm-hmm. So flippant about it because it is so ingrained in them. And this crap that they're trying to do with Title IX and homecoming, and then my daughter last night, last year in it's just getting worse. Right. She's in 8th grade now. She starts saying in 7th grade, she was sitting at the lunch table and it was the first time she'd ever heard about hormone treatments because the girls next to her were saying that they were going to start hormone therapy to change their sex to be boys. And I said, you haven't brought this up in a year. Grade. And she's like, well, no, I just tried to tune him out. But what are you talking about? What are these? Like, can you change your hormones to be a boy? And I'm like, oh my God, this is at the lunch table.
Right.
This is why people are leaving public schools.
I know someone whose daughter came to the dad and said, I think I might be transgender. I think I should be a boy.
Okay.
And he was like, what? Why? Listen to this. All my friends at school are.
Yeah, see, I think it's
so what are the statistical chances? Yes, a lot of it is pressure, and the school is helping facilitate some of these things. They are,
and this is what brings me to, I'm so trying to wrap my head around this. Also, I'm formulating a column based on what y'all are just talking about. I'm taking this all in.
Sorry, I should have given you a heads up. But
my heart is just thundering right now because this is why when it comes to schools, and listen, I need to be very clear with our audience. This is happening not just at public schools. Right. This is happening at private schools.
It really does.
Please do not put your fairy dust glasses on and assume that it cannot happen at a private school or a Christian school because those have gone woke and they are going along with some of this nonsense. So please understand that if you say, well, we're just going to take them out, well, that also depends on what kind of co-op you're going to put your child in if you choose to put them in a co-op, because those two can go woke. It depends on where you are. So you have to know the situation. But the idea that a school is going along with this and then demonizing us and saying we're going negative on schools and teachers, here's your sign.
Right.
We are for our teachers. We are for our administrators. We are for our kids. But we are against the problem of top-down management in education. We are against the legislators who make this a possibility for our kids. We are against the problem of the divide, devour, and destroy, that the enemy is taking over our schools and our kids. And everybody's just like, well,
yeah, and you can't say anything about it,
we're just
or
whistling
you're
past
being,
the graveyard,
being mean to
and
teachers.
then demonized for saying what in God's green earth is happening here. Now we're the bad guys because we're saying we're against that.
Right. Don't you think there's a little bit of in the education community, there's a little bit of, oh God, we really should have said something about this. You know what I'm saying? So when we say, hey, what's going on in our schools, and people get their feelings hurt and get all defensive, they know they should have said something.
That happens
It should
a lot.
never have gotten this far.
It should have never gotten this far. And Chris and I had a conversation with some friends that we adore. This is years ago. And that was the first time we realized, I mean, I'm telling you, this is like the kids were little and still in the house. We were having a conversation and he was like, oh my gosh, I realized you're not allowed to speak against any educators ever. And he's like, I'm not talking about the people per se. I'm talking about the issue.
Right.
And that's what we're not good at separating out, is we're not talking about the people. We love the people. But as people, though, we are responsible for doing the right thing. And sometimes that means being uncomfortable. I also have a deep problem with people not feeling like they can speak up. And
censorship started years ago. The school system was one of the things you could not say anything negative about. Right.
Shut your mouth. You're a wicked, evil person. No, that's not how it works. So it's just kind of this whole whirlwind that we're reaping, because all along the way, both parents and teachers and administrators that are good people, that are bending over backwards to love on and sacrifice for our kids. But what kid on that moment is going to come home and tell their mom, guess what we talked about at lunch today? I don't know about your kids, but mine need time to digest things and process. So it comes up a lot later. And what we're also asking is we're asking our kids to tell on their teachers and their friends. And that's real hard for me not to swear right now and say, darn you for that. I have many more words.
It's a struggle to me to figure out.
That's not right.
We perform so poorly academically. I know that upsets folks.
Sorry, thank you.
How do some of our schools have time to do all the wokeness? When do they do wokeness?
I think the
when we're
problem
supposed to be
is-
doing reading and writing and math. I mean, is what we're?
I think
doing?
they don't have time to combat the wokeness.
Right.
That are federal, state,
it's
local
just
is coming down.
news.
They're just trying to keep their job, and the fire hydrant of garbage, crap, is coming their way. What are they going to do?
Well, social media backs that up too, doesn't it?
Yes.
Once you look for one of those things, say you're a kid and you're sitting at the lunchroom table and you hear somebody talking about hormone replacement therapy, and you go to your phone that afternoon and you put what the heck is that? You're going to get ad after. It's awesome. Here's some posts.
You want to deepen your voice? Sure.
If you want to see weird, look at what pops up on my computer, because all the stuff we talk about here and on my radio show.
Did they hear us?
Oh yeah, your phone listens all the time, and your ads changed. Go home and talk about how you need new tires on the Bronco, and see if you don't start getting ads for tires.
I need tennis shoes.
I hope I
Let's see
don't.
if it shows up.
I promise.
It's
tennis
gonna be
shoes.
Air Jordans.
A specific kind.
Yeah.
But you get ads for what is it? Tucking underwear. If you don't know what that is,
What?
count yourself very, very blessed.
Yes, I do know what that is.
See, tell her.
Is that like Mormon underwear?
It helps to tuck
No, that's
your parts.
super underwear. So you don't look like a guy anymore.
You get ads for that?
Yes, because I talked
Since
about
you
it on the
look-
show the other day.
It can help you tuck. They have a video on showing you how to do it.
Right.
Oh, well, that's another thing my daughter brought up last
Oh,
night.
great.
That there were conversations in 8th grade this year about the girls that were buying binders.
Yeah, to strap their chest down.
To bind
So
their
for thousands
boobs.
of years, girls have tried to figure out how to push them together.
Yeah. Now
And
we want them
we're
to go
trying
away.
to strap them back.
Yeah.
So this is my 8th grader.
And this is everywhere. This is all the schools and college.
Are you
It's
crying?
horrible.
No, I'm not crying.
Oh, okay.
You
I
should
lost
be
my
crying.
voice last week, and so
It makes me
it's
wanna
just now
cry.
coming back. It does make me want to cry. Like I
Can
want
we-
to just
can we do-
melt off the chair right now.
Well, do we want to read anonymous teacher's letter? It kind of
I do. I don't even want to talk about Russia anymore. Which I've been
Forget
trying to
the
talk
pipeline.
about.
I know.
Yes.
Forget the pipeline.
We'll do that another
Something
time.
happened.
And we can do amendments
It's
another
bad.
day. But I want to hear
okay.
the
get into it.
anonymous
So
letter.
it kind of does all tie in together.
Is this to us? To you? To us? To who?
So probably 3 months ago, I got sorry, this chair's really bothering me today. I feel like
Okay.
a little kid, like my feet are flapping. I got an email from anonymous teacher, and it's exactly what you're talking about. These teachers are
Was
terrified
anonymous spelled right?
to speak up. It
Yes.
was.
Very
it was.
good.
I read it too. This is her friend.
Why do I not get to
I don't
read
know
it?
who
I
it is.
sent it to you
She
3
doesn't know
months
who it
ago.
is.
Did
Anyway.
not.
She did.
Did
No.
you?
I think I told you about.
Oh, you probably
yeah,
told
she
me.
did. She did.
Okay.
I didn't send you anything. So, basically, they had watched one of our podcasts, and I say they because I originally thought it was a girl. Now I think it's a boy. I really don't know. Hey, apparently it doesn't
Why are you
matter.
assigning
It
their
doesn't
gender?
matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's a wolf. And basically they had watched one of our podcasts, and just from a teacher's perspective wanted to let us know kind of what they think, what it's like in the classroom, what they see kind of behind the scenes. And we've had probably 3 months of dialogue, and it's
Anonymously.
anonymously. Like I have no clue. I don't know. They're in Alabama.
Okay.
But because they know Alabama players, but
Okay.
I don't know what county. I don't know what school.
Really?
It's kind of.
And you're so nosy. You haven't tried to
Frankly,
figure this
is
out?
awesome.
I'm
And we are
impressed.
so thankful
Well,
for
because
this
I
person.
value their opinion,
Right.
and they're putting a lot of trust in me
Yeah.
to keep
I
my
wouldn't
mouth
want to look
shut.
them up either because you're going to get information that you'll never hear. So,
Well, and they found me through local. I guess we had talked about local, so they got on the local website and then contacted me through there. And it's been this great dialogue because it's given me a different perspective. And what's funny is that we usually end up the same place. Like we usually end up agreeing on the issues, but their perspective and path in is very different from mine as a teacher and being in
Really?
a school.
Okay.
Mhm. So
do you start off kind of
it
loggerheads
was-
just a
it
little
was-
bit?
yeah,
You don't
just
really
a little
understand
bit,
it, and then
because,
you get to
like,
the same place.
I'm going to read, this was basically our very first, like the first email that they sent.
Okay.
And if I say he, I think it's a he. I don't know. And it's long, but it's good and it's comprehensive. And I did break it down. Like, I don't know if
Yeah,
y'all want to
you
talk
did.
about it, but, and I'm not great at reading, but wait, I did grow up in Tennessee. I can read. I'm not great at reading on air, but we'll go fast and we might not make it through the whole thing. But so this is basically like our first email
Okay.
that he sent. It says, most of the time when conservative media, such as this podcast, talk about public education, it's negative. But just like in any profession, a few bad people make everyone look bad. Corrupt politicians, contractors taking bribes and cutting corners, police paid to turn a blind eye, pastors who aren't really called to ministry but are looking for a paycheck. We're not all the same. Please stop acting like we are. I don't sit here and lump each of you into the worst of your profession. I don't know you, so please quit assuming you know each and every one of us.
All right. Can I call timeout?
Yeah.
Why is that? You kind of alluded to that a minute ago. Why is that the first response? That everybody's the same. Everybody's just as bad. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people are saying that when we're having problems with education. We're not saying every teacher is bad. Why do they automatically think we're saying every teacher is bad?
I think it feels that way. And
Okay.
Amy Beth and I were talking before the podcast, and it's like I think teachers, from what I've gathered, feel trapped between the legislators, the bureaucrats, the federal government, and the parents. And like they're
Okay.
just kind of there, like we're just doing our best.
Right.
We're just trying to make it through the day and get
right.
these kids.
We're just doing what they tell us to do.
Right.
And
they're
why is
kind of
everybody
trapped
bashing education?
and unheard. And when you are the workers, I'm sure it feels like they're dogging you, you know?
Okay.
So I because that's not my intention. It's not any of our
Right.
intention.
No.
And in fact, I had to make a Facebook post a few weeks ago because people were calling me out for being so negative. And I'm like, this is not about, like, I could go through so many great teachers in our school system that have changed our lives. And we all could say that. So I think it's just a natural defense reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed
But
it
I
for
wish
years and
they
years and
wouldn't
years
take
and
it
years.
that
Yeah, I mean, it is. And that's what I'm talking about is you just feel like, well, are we not allowed to, like, you can dog doctors, you can dog
Right.
nurses, you can dog politicians. And really what we're coming against is the problem. We're not coming against
Right.
the people. And so this is part of the issue, I think. But I agree with you. When I read that, I was like,
Oh, we're not
But at
saying
some
that.
point, it does fall on the responsibility of the educators to speak up against this.
Yes,
the
it
problem
does.
is they have to send anonymous emails
Right, because they can't
because they're
come out
terrified.
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
And
And
they're
I hate that for
terrified.
them.
of other teachers and administrators.
And administrators and the local school board. And
Right.
I mean, it just
Can't get
There's
outside.
so many
can't get
layers
outside
on
the
top
herd.
that
Yeah.
is not fair. That's
Right.
not fair.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Most of us are devout, God-fearing people. We're not Marxists. We're not teaching gay is the way. We're there to teach the standards. Each course has them. Look it up. Alabama Course of Study. It might shock you what isn't in there. We're there to love your kids and help them reach their potential. We're not there indoctrinating kids. If I could indoctrinate a kid, the first thing I'd do is get them to turn their work in on time. And the next and final thing would be to make them make benchmark on every exam they're forced to take. Here's a novel idea for parents. Get to know your teacher. We don't mind talking or meeting with parents, especially the ones we know aren't coming at us with how perfect Johnny or Jill are, and there's no way they did what we claim. But we talk professionally to them no matter how much they cuss and spit in our faces while doing it. You can't begin to fathom how nice it would be for me to hear a parent is there to see me, and all they want is to ask how they can help me or just take the chance to get to know me. Meet the teacher night or whatever your school calls it doesn't do it. Oftentimes, we've been at school that day for 12 hours by that point. We haven't seen our family at all. Our kids will be in bed by the time we get home. We aren't paid for this extra time either. It's required we stay there without being required on paper. That's another story for another day. Just show up and say, hi, I'm Jerry's parent. How can I help and make what you're doing easier? If you do that, you'll quickly find the bad apples that you want gone. Posting screenshots on social media from teachers you've never talked to isn't going to help. That one hurt. Face-to-face contact helps. If you have no ill intentions and a teacher continuously ignores you, assuming you don't have the reputation of wanting to do away with public school teachers, or are the parent that wants to jump the conference table and turn every conference into a WWE match, that's your sign. Those are your bad apples. Administrators would love to reach out for you to reach out to them. Again. 99% of the parent contact is when a kid gets in trouble. Reach out to them.
Yeah. Okay. So I find my bad apple.
Yeah. You can't do anything because they're tenured.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what good does that do me?
Yeah.
So basically that just says you'll find them. Good for you. Your kids got them the whole year, and next year's kids got them, and the next year's kids got them, the next year's kids got them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. And this is clearly somebody who is trying to do a really good job and gets upset when somebody is, unreasonable. And there's a ton of unreasonable parents. They're right about that. Everybody thinks
100%.
Johnny is, I usually automatically think my kid's done something they shouldn't.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes.
So, I mean,
kind of
people
opposite,
who think Johnny is
like
a saint. I know, it's weird. Why are we the odd ones now?
And I think we all are in agreement also that we really do, we have to keep coming back to this. Teachers who are called to teach, just like what he's talking about, not the pastors who are just looking for a paycheck.
That's right.
Or whatever else that this person mentioned, is a gift.
Right.
To be with those kids all day long, that is a gift.
Right.
So that is a gift. And we are thankful for the ones.
And we're supportive.
Who are good at that and are supportive.
Right.
But to your point, when you find a bad apple, what are you going to do? Because it's really hard to
Right.
fire
There's
anybody
almost nothing
anywhere
you
at
can
all
do.
today.
Yeah.
And not just in the teaching profession.
Right. I agree. I would love to hear the rest of that sometime, but I think we've got to wrap up a little bit. Unless there's a really, really high point that you're looking for,
it's
because
really good.
It may take more discussion over time, because we really,
I'm gonna make
really,
a mark
really
right here.
do
Yeah,
have
we
to.
need to go
Stop here.
because this is where it gets good.
We really do have to reform education in some way, and I think school choice is a huge way of doing that. But everybody supports publicly funded education. I mean, we want our children to grow up. We want them to be well educated. I mean, I've taken so much abuse over the years. You're against public education. You hate teachers. You hate all this. But, me and my wife have been there anytime the school, especially my wife, anytime the school has ever needed anything. She's there to volunteer. She's there to raise money. She's there to do this. I'm there to help things. I usually get to do the manual labor, all that kind of stuff. And we're doing what they say. I mean, we had a teacher one year that didn't like me. My kid was in her class, and other parents were complaining because the class was too hard. She was making them do extra work. And I was like, this is fantastic. This is what the class should be like. So we went to bat with administration to defend her, even though she didn't love me at all.
Yeah.
But she was doing a great job.
What'd you do to her?
I didn't vote for enough pay raises or something back when I was in
Well,
legislature.
I mean,
that,
it's the
that
same
kind
thing.
of stuff.
I mean, we sponsor school sports.
Right.
And we're happy to. And we love our coaches.
Right.
We absolutely love them. But the problem is the system has been set up to keep us all at odds with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do need to reform.
Right.
We've got to reform the system. And we can't be seeing as the crazy people for wanting to do that.
Yeah.
Because what we want more than anything, the same thing that I want for doctors, nurses, healthcare people, because that's what I know best more than anything in the world, is to preserve their ability to take care of their patients without the hideous influence of health insurance and government interference. I want the same thing for teachers. You have been given a gift. You have been given a calling. We want you to be able to do what you do best without the federal, the state, and the local telling you all the time what you have to do, rather than relying on your God-given gifts and talents to know exactly what those kids needs and do it without having to fight talking about puberty blockers at the lunch table.
I agree completely. Hear, hear.
That's what we
Hear,
want.
hear.
Nice job.
Okay, I marked off where that is because I really want to read
go
more
back,
of that. And just because I'm trying to get better at this, I wrote about courage this week. And do y'all know the story of Albert Patterson? Do you remember him? He's from the 50s. He reformed Phoenix City, Alabama. It's about courage.
He was the anti-gambling guy.
Yes.
Attorney General.
And it's just a very interesting story based on all the things we were talking about today. So in an effort to do better, I would love for people to take a look at that if they can.
Okay.
Is it out
Just his
today?
story?
It's out this week.
Okay.
Oh,
So
your article.
my article this week is about Albert
fantastic.
Patterson. And I did a story on it for API years ago. And then it came back up again. And I was like, you know what? More people need to know about
Kinda
this guy
sad, though,
he's
isn't it?
the
It's
go-
heroic and sad.
It's a tragedy, but it's
Right.
also triumph in what happened afterward.
Right.
But I thought, you know what? At the 1 year anniversary of 1819, looking ahead at a new legislative session, and in December, we're coming up on 1 year. Just to be reminded of what courage actually looks like and cleaning up communities, what that actually looks like. I don't know. It just kind of had been with me for a little while. So
Yeah, I like it.
I would love it
Very
if
good.
people might take
They
a look.
find it at 1819news.com.
Yep.
Do they search for your name?
They can search for my name or just go scroll down till you get to opinion.
And there it is.
And there it is.
Good. You want to sign us off? Anybody want to sign us off? Any volunteers?
She does.
She does.
Thanks
brought
for
all the
joining
ideas.
us today. We'll hope you'll stick with us next time and have fluffy kittens.
Great.
I don't do it.
This has been Alabama
Thank
Unfiltered.
you.
Thank you for watching the program. Don't forget you can find this podcast at all the usual places. Give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever it takes to get us more viewers and more people learning about what's going on in their world. See y'all.